Hello everyone, my name is Robert, but you can call me Angela Murkrow, and welcome to my adventure guide. This time, I'll be covering the ground-type legendary Pokémon available in the Crown Tundra's Dynamax Adventures, but I'll give each Pokémon their own day in the sun. After each legend of that type gets a video, I'll work on a separate video addressing where these Pokémon share common ground and how you can prepare for all three. For this video, I'll do a full breakdown of the legendary Pokémon's type, ability, stats, and moveset. I'll offer you Pokemon you can pick up that would make great offensive options, followed by Pokemon that would offer great utility and support, and then recommend Pokemon you should avoid. We'll start off this soon-to-be trilogy with Groudon, first appearing in Generation 3 as the box legendary for Pokemon Ruby. Groudon is only available in Dynamax Adventures if you have the Crown Tundra expansion for Pokemon Sword. The Pokemon Shield players can find Groudon if they have the Nintendo Switch Online membership and connect with another player hosting a Groudon Den. So what do we need to know when facing Groudon in Dynamax Adventures? Groudon is a ground type, weak to grass, water, and ice type moves. It resists poison and rock type moves, and it's immune to electric moves. It has the ability Drought, which can set up the harsh sunlight. If there are multiple Pokemon with weather-related abilities on the field, then the abilities will activate in turn order. The harsh sunlight comes with a number of benefits or detriments depending on which weather you want to be in. Probably the most important is that Groudon's water-type weakness might as well be irrelevant, considering that water-type attacks are reduced by 50% while in the sun. So this gives us a choice. We can either stay in the sun, aim for the rain, or go for snow. Overall, Drought is a one-and-done ability. Once it activates the sun, that ability isn't doing anything again during that battle. If we take a moment to look at Groudon's attacks, we should have a quick reminder that the legendary Pokemon in Dynamax Adventures have access to 5 moves rather than their usual 4. Plus, their max move counterparts. These Pokemon will only know the first 4 moves listed when caught. Groudon knows the following moves: Earthquake, Scary Face, Lava Plume, Hammer Arm, and Precipice Blades. Groudon's max moves will either boost its special defense, boost its attack, or set up Sun. Earthquake, Lava Plume, and Precipice Blades will deal spread damage, so protecting yourself and your teammates is a high priority. Additionally, Lava Plume has a 30% chance at inflicting burn. So if your team is hit by Lava Plume, then you can expect at least one of you may be left with a burn. Hammer Arm is a fairly strong physical fighting type attack, but it will drop the user's speed by 1 stage. However, Groudon can drop your speed or teammate's speed by 2 stages with its move Scary Face. This can lead to constant changes in turn order. Leading up to Groudon, it might be worth keeping an eye out for your own ways to manage speed, or just be sure to keep track of speed changes in battle. You may notice that all of Groudon's moves are physical, except for Lava Plume. Both Earthquake and Hammer Arm have a base power of 100, and Precipice Blades has a base power of 120, and these are coming off a massive base attack stat of 150. And even though Lava Plume only has a base power of 80, if Groudon can keep the sun up, then it can still deal a lot of damage off a base 100 special attack stat. In terms of defense, Groudon is far more physically defensive than it is specially defensive. While you may be inclined to pick up special attackers, remember that Max Quake can boost Groudon's special defense, so without stat reduction, you may feel walled regardless. And like I said while discussing Hammer Arm and Scary Face, there is likely to be several changes in turn order during this battle, but at a base 90 speed stat, the right support can help you or your teammates outspeed Groudon reliably. So now that we've gone over Groudon's weaknesses, resistances, immunities, what Groudon's ability does, each of Groudon's attacks, and Groudon's stats, what do we do with this information? Before we go any further, I do want to preface that I've included my damage calculation guidelines and the link to Pokemon Showdown's damage calculator in the description of this video. There are a lot of conditional elements at play when facing Groudon, and I want you to be confident in my results. With the ground rules out of the way, let's look at all the ways we can counter Groudon. Since Sun is guaranteed, let's take a look at our Sun payoffs first. While the harsh sunlight does boost the power of fire moves, the only fire attackers worth considering would be Talonflame and Centiskorch due to their combination of immunities and resistances. Though keep in mind with Talonflame that its Hurricane only has 50% accuracy in the sunlight. Instead, if we want to benefit from the sun, then we should be looking at grass-type Pokemon. Pokemon like Loom, Vileplume, and Ivysaur benefit because their ability Chlorophyll doubles their speed in the sun. Ivysaur gets the most benefit because its move Synthesis also restores more health in the sun, and Ivysaur also has access to Solar Beam. Normally, Solar Beam would take 2 turns to use, but in the sun it can be used immediately, and likely before Groudon, for 150 to 176 points of damage. Speaking of Solar Beam, 4 other Pokemon have access to the move: Heatmor, Cryogonal, Cherim, and Executor, with the latter two being my most recommended pickups. If you want the biggest bang for your buck, then Exeggutor is the way to go. Solar Beam can deal 212 to 252 points of damage, making one of the best offensive options against Groudon. Exeggutor also offers some resiliency in the sunlight. If you manage to pick up a Citrus Berry, or any other berry for that matter, and it is used during your battle with Groudon, then you are guaranteed to get it back at the end of your turn, as long as the sun is still up. If it's not up, then you only have a 50% chance of reviving that berry. But picking up Cherrim comes with an interesting perk. Cherrim's ability Flower Gift will change its form and also boost your team's attack and special defense by 50%. This is a great pickup if you find your team leaning more towards the physical side. Even without Flower Gift, Cherrim can still be counted on to deal 158 to 188 points of damage with its Solar Beam. By the way, did you know that Solar Beam has its power halved if it's used in rain, hail, or sandstorm? I've been playing Pokemon for 20-some years and only just learned that while researching this video. With that being said, don't bring Solar Beam if it's going to rain. If your plan is to make it rain, no, there's a better way to say that. If you hope to set up rain while in Dynamax Adventures, then your best hope is that you or one of your teammates has access to Max Geyser. If not, then any of these 5 Pokemon can set it up. While Politoed is a favorite rain setter for VGC rain teams, it's not the best rain setter here. By all means though, if your plan is to set up rain, then this is much better than trusting Dynamax will do it. At least this is guaranteed at the start of the battle. Groudon is faster, so Drought will activate, and because Politoed is slower, Drizzle will activate after and overwrite the sun. And then it's done. Granted, if the rain sticks, then hooray, Politoed did its job, and you can now sit back and spam Helping Hand on your team's best attacker. But the times where it doesn't stick, maybe after you've lost your chance to do it again with Dynamax, and here comes the sun again and your water-type attacks are suddenly hosed. At this point, you may find yourself wondering if you'll be more useful clicking Helping Hand, or if you should be crossing your fingers hoping that Groudon will knock you out. While that's definitely a mood, it's also not a position you want to be in. It won't happen every time, but when it does, you remember. Sigilith is fairly straightforward. Hit Rain Dance when you need to, and then sit back and spam Psychic. As a flying type, you're immune to Earthquake and Precipice Blades. Add in the Psychic type, and now you have a quad resistance to Hammer Arm. Sigilith's Wonder Skin also makes Scary Face 50% accurate when used against it, leaving Lava Plume as the only move to really cause much concern. So it comes down to who's faster. Sigilith is at level 65 with a base 97 speed stat, and Groudon has a base 90 speed stat, but it's at level 70. Results will vary. Moving on to Acelgor. As a bug type, Acelgor is resistant to Earthquake, Precipice Blades, and Hammer Arm, but weak to Lava Plume. However, if you're worried about Acelgor's frailty, then at least feel secure that you are essentially guaranteed to outspeed Groudon and set up Rain Dance and greatly reduce the damage dealt by Lava Plume. Then you have the choice of sitting back and spamming Bug Buzz or Acid Spray. If your teammates lean more physical, then go with Bug Buzz. Acid Spray is not very effective, but also reduces the target's special defense by 2 stages, and can offer great support for your special attacking teammates. Shiinotic has a lot going for it if you get to set up Rain. First, its Grass and Fairy typing makes Shiinotic resistant to all of Groudon's attacks except for Lava Plume, so even with a base 30 speed, you should be able to set up a Rain Dance. Second, Shiinotic has access to 2 forms of recovery, with Rain Dish and Strength Sap. Shiinotic will recover 1/16 of its HP at the end of the turn while in rain. It's minimal, but also better than nothing. Strength Sap is great for temporarily reducing Groudon's massive attack stat and healing yourself in the process, though your teammates are bound to be hit hard at least once before you can use the move. But if dealing damage is your goal, then Shiinotic's Weather Ball can deal 136 to 162 points of damage to Groudon while in the rain. There are certainly Pokemon that hit harder, but it's worth noting Shiinotic's ability to adjust its playstyle to fit what your team needs at the moment. However, if we want to deal massive damage with Weather Ball, then look no further than Pelipper. Here we have a situation similar to what we had with Politoed. Pelipper has Drizzle and is slower than Groudon, so Pelipper will pretty much always overwrite Groudon's Drought and set up Rain at the very beginning. But unless Pelipper gets knocked out and revived, that Rain isn't coming back easily, but even that is hard to count on, considering its Water Flying type combination provides resistance and immunity from all of Groudon's damaging attacks. However, if Rain does stick around long enough for Pelipper to attack, then we're looking at a Weather Ball that can deal 212 to 252 points of damage. That is just as strong as Exeggutor's Solar Beam in the sun. But even if Rain does go away, Pelipper can always pivot to the defensive and spam Wide Guard turn after turn. Facing down 3 different spread damage moves, your teammates may prefer surviving over attempting a quicker knockout. And those are just the 5 Pokemon that are guaranteed to set up Rain. Of the 226 Pokemon available in Dynamax Adventures, we're looking at about only 40 of them that have access to a Water-type move, not including the conditional Weather Ball. so it's worth reiterating. Only pick up water-type attackers if you know you'll get more water types or if you have one of the 5 setup options. Otherwise, you and your team will be left out to dry. And to cap off our discussion, let's briefly discuss Hail. Dynamax Adventures does not have a Pokemon that can naturally set up Hail. If you want that weather condition, then Dynamax is your only option, so don't count on it. But honestly, it's okay if it's absent. You're trading a decrease to Lava Plume's power for some chip damage to your non-ice type teammates. The only real benefit is giving your Blizzard users perfect accuracy and an actual chance to freeze Groudon. As a general reminder, Pokemon cannot become frozen in the harsh sunlight, but that doesn't mean that already frozen Pokemon will thaw out if the harsh sunlight gets activated. Cryogonal and Vanillish are probably your best Blizzard users. Vanillish has access to Ice Body and can gradually restore its hit points in Hail, and its Blizzard can deal about 134 to 162 points of damage. Cryogonal has access to Levitate and is immune to all of Groudon's ground-type attacks, plus access to Reflect that can provide some relief against Hammer Arm, but that still leaves it weak to Lava Plume. However, its Blizzard can deal 152 to 182 points of damage. And if the sun is up and you want to feel confident that you can hit, then Cryogonal can always fall back on Solar Beam. If either Rain or Hail end up being a viable option on your team, then be sure to also keep in mind the Pokemon that can use Weather Ball. Of those Pokemon, there are 3 that won't be mentioned after this section and haven't been mentioned previously. So, for the sake of posterity, Eldegoss can use Weather Ball, as well as Vaporeon, and if you're feeling especially bold, you can pick up a Frostmoth. And one final note on weather before we move on. If your team doesn't care about weather, then pick up Altaria. Altaria's flying type makes it immune to Groudon's ground attacks, resistant to Hammer Arm, and its dragon typing makes it resistant to Lava Plume. Additionally, its ability Cloud9 removes all effects of weather. It's important to distinguish that it doesn't remove the weather, it just removes the effects. With Altaria on the field, Groudon's Lava Plume won't be boosted in the sun, and Power of Water type moves won't be dampened. So if your teammates are depending on weather, then they may find Altaria to be a little bit of an annoyance. In the end, we have to make do with the team that we have. So whether the weather be cold, or whether the weather be hot, we'll weather the weather whatever the weather, whether we like it or not. So whatever the weather, what are our offensive options? We have Pokemon like Rosalia, Maractus, and Sceptile with access to Leaf Storm. While this is a powerful grass-type attack, Leaf Storm does drop the user's special attack by 2 stages after each use. So sure, it's powerful, but only once. However, Sceptile can use its base 120 speed to get off 1 breaking swipe before Groudon can move to lower the opponent's attack. It won't deal much damage, but it will help your team take less. And I'm going to briefly mention Grass Pledge. There, I did it. Just be aware that it has quote-unquote combo potential if a teammate has access to Water Pledge or Fire Pledge. As for Maractus, well, despite the punch it can pack, Maractus can easily become an annoyance for your team. Its ability Storm Drain will draw in all water-type attacks used in battle and boost Maractus' special attack by 1 stage. That may be exciting for the Maractus player who's losing a considerable amount of power after each use of Leaf Storm, but let's say, for the teammate that just Dynamax and thought they would set up Rain with Max Geyser, well, that player may get a tad salty, so try to keep in mind your whole team before picking up a Maractus. And one final Leaf Storm user, Lurantis. Lurantis' ability completely reverses Leaf Storm's drawback. Instead of a 2-stage drop to special attack, Lurantis gets a 2-stage boost, making each Leaf Storm more powerful than the last. It starts off dealing 158 to 188 points of damage, and the second one will nearly double that damage. And if the Leaf Storm boosts weren't enough, Lurantis can also use Weather Ball, preferably in rain or snow. Lilligant is another grass-type beater with great synergy between its ability and moveset. Petal Dance is a special 120 base power attack, and with Lilligant's base 110 special attack stat, you're looking at 192 to 228 points of damage against Groudon. And you get to do that for free for 2 to 3 turns. Normally after those turns, your Pokemon would get confused, but Lilligant's own tempo prevents confusion. Pollen Puff is there in case you need to do an emergency heal, and Quiver Dance will make your Petal Dances stronger and faster. Porygon is a fun option. I will never turn down an opportunity to catch and use a Porygon. If Porygon gets to activate its ability Download, then you are essentially guaranteed a boost to its special attack. There's always the possibility that Groudon will reset all stat changes at the start of its turn, but until then, your Ice Beams are dealing 154 to 182 points of damage. And if you're feeling desperate, I should note that Jinx also has access to Ice Beam, falling just short of a boosted Ice Beam from Porygon. However, not only is Jynx incredibly frail, it also has the ability Dry Skin, which makes it even weaker to fire-type moves, like Groudon's move, Lava Plume. Dry Skin will also make the Pokemon gradually lose HP at the end of each turn while the sun is still active. Which begs the question, does this imply that Jynx can melt in the sun? Who can never be sure? And boy howdy, those are just my offensive recommendations. My defensive will be much shorter. So if you're looking to play a defensive or more supportive role, then what should you be on the lookout for? First, either set of screens would find use here, but Reflect would be doing much more work than Light Screen. Both Mr. Mime and Mr. Mime have access to either screen, but after screens get set up, our Cantonian Mr. Mime can sit back and use Helping Hand, while Galarian Mr. Mime here can use Icy Wind to drop speed and inflict some damage. While Clefairy only has access to Reflect, it also has the ability Front Guard, and just being out on the field will reduce damage your teammates take by 25%. There are also the Pokemon with access to the move Coaching. These are the Pokemon that can use Coaching, and when used, Coaching will boost the attack and defense of your teammates. Honestly, I think the best option here would be Hitmontop. Its Intimidate will lower Groudon's attack at the beginning of the battle, and after it's used Coaching a time or two, you can start doing damage with Triple Axle. If your team is comprising itself of physical attackers, then these Coaching Pokemon and the previously mentioned Cherim are your best supportive options. Remember, Groudon has access to spread damage. And who loves to counter spread damage? It's our Wide Guard users! I genuinely don't care which one would be considered the best against Groudon. Groudon has access to 3 moves that deal spread damage. Other than Pelipper, I don't think these Pokemon want to be clicking any other move besides Wide Guard. While not Wide Guard, Vileplume and Bellossom can also reduce damage your team takes from Earthquake. Both have access to grassy terrain, which while active can have the power of certain ground-type attacks, like Groudon's Earthquake. While Bellossom will resist Groudon a little bit better, Vileplume's Chlorophyll will allow it to set up grassy terrain before Groudon can attack. As long as the sun is still up, that is. It's also worth reminding that grassy terrain will have some benefits for your grounded Pokemon. That's Pokemon that aren't flying and don't have the ability Levitate. Your grounded Pokemon will recover 1/16 of their hit points at the end of each turn, and grounded Pokemon using grass-type moves will have their power increased by 30%. And because I made this Pokemon a promise in my last video, I would like to make a case for Pyukumuku. This Pokemon wants to be hit with physical spread damage, so it can retaliate with counter. Your best case scenario, Pyukumuku has 31 IVs and hit points, full health, which would be 166, and holding a Focus Sash. Groudon uses Earthquake or Precipice Blades, and Pyukumuku goes down to 1 hit point. Pyukumuku ends the turn cycle by using counter, dealing 330 points of damage to Groudon. This is the absolute best case scenario. Do not count on that happening. And boy howdy, I think that's all of our defensive/supportive options against Groudon. I can go further and list the Pokemon with the most immunities and resistances against Groudon's attacks, but instead I'll just showcase a number of them here on screen. Essentially, we're looking at Flying-type Pokemon and Pokemon with Levitate to ignore Groudon's Ground-type moves. Flying adds a resistance to Hammer Arm, but Ghost types are completely immune to Hammer Arm, and then toss in another type or two for additional resistances. And now, even faster, the bad. Here, I don't think it's necessarily bad type matchups, but closer to bad utility. But just in case, a reminder that Poison and Rock type attacks will hit Groudon not very effectively, and Electric type attacks will do literally nothing. And Poison, Rock, and Steel type Pokemon are easily KO'd by a number of Groudon's attacks. So instead, let's take a look at questionable moves and abilities. As for abilities, I mentioned Dry Skin while discussing Jynx. Heliolisk is the only other Pokemon with Dry Skin in Dynamax Adventures. The combination of its ability, typing, and moveset makes it almost entirely useless against Groudon. Looking at moves, considering Groudon's propensity to lower your speed and its own speed, using Trick Room may not always be as beneficial as you would hope. A number of moderately useful Pokemon come equipped with Trick Room. Trevenant, Claydol, and Jellicent have other moves that they can and should prioritize over Trick Room. It's purely a matter of, will this really benefit my team? The only one that I can't truly recommend is Lampent. It has poor damage output and weakness to Groudon's ground-type attacks. And finally, I would like to discuss the move Dig. You may think it's great to be immune from attacks for a turn, but remember that Earthquake will instead deal twice as much damage to any Pokemon in that semi-immune turn of Dig. So if you end up with one of these 6 Pokemon with Dig, please, click anything other than Dig. Anything. And that brings me to the end of my comprehensive guide for Groudon. If you're looking to shiny hunt Groudon and face it again and again and again, then remember, keep in mind what weather your team will benefit from the most. Water types need rain to be set up in order to be useful. Overall, grass and ice are your best options for damage output. Wide Guard is an absolute must. And please avoid most electric, poison, and steel type Pokemon. I plan on making individual videos for the other 2 ground-type legendary Pokemon available in Dynamax Adventures, and should be hitting the channel sometime in the coming days. So be sure to click the subscribe button so you can be notified when the next video goes up. You can also follow me on Twitter and support me on Ko-fi at Angela Murkrow, and I'll let you know there when another video is about to be posted. While you're doing that, I would really appreciate if you leave a like on this video, and then in the comments, let me know what you think. Is there a type or specific Pokemon that you would like me to see cover next? Are there any Pokemon that you found to be incredibly good against Groudon? Are there any that are just plain awful? Thank you so much for watching. My name is Robert, but you can call me Angela Murkrow, and I'll talk to you next time.